Hodgson put him on his back. Thurston, right foot kick, down the ground, into the in goal almost. Hodgson cuts it off. Hodgson taken by Norton. He took him late. Marshall skips away. Marshall's still going. Marshall's got Richards coming up outside. Now inside. Richards pursued. He pushes Johnson away.
Good evening, everybody. It is Tuesday, the 11th of March, 2025. You're back for another episode of the Tiger Town podcast with your hosts, Zach and Toby. Zach at this end, Toby at the other. Brought to you as always by Best On Ground Digital. Best On Ground Digital, the digital marketing agency that looks after a little guy. They will not steer you wrong. bestongrounddigital.com. And Toby, we've made it, mate, episode 100.
Triple
Who
digits.
can believe that, firstly, we're silly enough to do this 100 times, but the listeners out there are silly enough to keep tuning in. 100, mate. Congratulations.
Oh, mate, they're not,
raise your bat.
They're not silly. They know quality when they hear it. By the way, again, another episode where my voice is a bit distorted because I have laryngitis. So that's fantastic. But we shall move on. And yes, 100 episodes, triple digits. It's yeah. It's funny when we decided to start doing this. I think it was just I think it was like 2021, maybe even 2020. I don't know.
We've been talking about it for a long time.
We were talking about it for years before we did it, and then I think you just decided to just say let's just do it. And I was like, yeah, right, I can do it.
I think we did a pilot show and we decided to upload it, and I think we got like 11 listens or something.
Something like that, yeah.
Ecstatic.
Yeah,
and
we
look
were
at us
stoked.
now. Look at us now. We're up to 17, 18 listeners. Absolutely flying.
On a good day, yeah. On a good day.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah. No, mate, it's I don't know. It's not a big thing, but sometimes it's nice to look back at a little body of work that you've created, and we've created ourselves a good 100 hours worth of two blokes having a yarn about the West Tigers. And I've got to tell you, this is our 4th season doing this, and we've yielded 3 spoons from 3.
Yeah.
Good strike rate.
Yeah, I'm not one to be superstitious, but that's a bit too much for a coincidence for me, isn't it? Should we just stop doing it?
I don't know. Maybe we are the bad luck charm. I mean, you talk about a baptism of fire. Fancy coming in and doing your first 100 episodes during a period of your side only coming last for those entire 100 episodes.
Yeah, it's gonna be really different when we do like when we have consistent winning, and we're not always depressed. It's gonna be weird.
Yeah,
because like that's been
know what we're
consistent for 3 years.
Like, I hope we don't start winning too rapidly, mate. The show might fall to bits.
Yeah, I know. Like I think people find us cathartic. So
possibly, yeah. Possibly. I don't know. Anyway, congratulations. Thank you for coming along, and I think we've done okay.
I do everything, so you should thank me for more than that.
No, mate, that's all you get. Consider yourself lucky you even get that.
It's horseshit.
So, mate, there's a little bit, before we get into talking about the Newcastle loss, unfortunately, on the weekend, there's a little bit of news floating around in the West Tigers space, which we'll get to in a moment. Before that, mate, we did tease last week about a little announcement that's coming for our 100th episode, a little bit of a celebration. And mate, we're not going to reveal it just yet. We're going to do that age-old thing. Yeah, righto, we'll listen to it halfway through your show. Righto, we'll put up with it for this. Not super exciting, but something's pretty interesting. It's a giveaway of sorts, mate, and I'm pretty excited to do it as a little celebration, a little thank you, to be perfectly honest, to everybody who's listened to even a single moment of the show over the last 100 episodes. And it's an opportunity as well for, I guess, for us to say thank you in some way to someone, at least one of you. So we might reveal a little bit more about that maybe a little bit later in the show, mate.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool, to be honest, that
cool.
We've got something like this to be able to give. Like, we've got some pretty loyal fans, and the base keeps growing. Like, where it's just flabbergasted with how many people listen to us have a yarn every week. So yeah, it's pretty cool that we're able to do this.
No, look, it's something little, but yeah. Anyway, let's move on. So the first thing I wanted to mention, mate, Taylor May getting heavily linked to the West Tigers. We obviously found out current time yesterday, but on the 10th of March there, that his charges were dropped or withdrawn, as it were, from the court proceedings. Very serious charges, obviously, and not the first time that Taylor has been on the wrong side of the law over his short career. A lot of people speculating and tying the West Tigers to Taylor. We've spoken about it briefly in the past without wanting to elaborate further. Mate, from what I've read and from what I've heard, it looks like a bit of a fait accompli, provided he's interested in coming back to football, which seems to be the case. I'm assuming and have heard that he's going to be at Concord pretty soon. Doesn't mean it's going to happen, but what's your take on that Taylor May situation, given what's transpired this week?
Well, when we discussed it a while ago, I personally said I wasn't thrilled. But after much deliberation and the fact of our stocks not looking great based on what I saw on the weekend, if it does transpire, I will be very, very happy because he is a very quality footballer. I hope, though, that shit's behind him. I hope that if he does come to us, because it looks like Terrell's got a good head on his shoulders. Is he older than Taylor?
Yeah. Taylor's the youngest. That's why his nickname's Tiny. Yeah. Terrell's the middle, and then Tyrone is the oldest.
Yeah. He's got a better head on his shoulders than Tyrone as well. So, that's definitely would be, I think, a good thing to have them both, or have him at the club with Taylor's there as well. So,
yeah.
Look,
he, as a player, he fills everything that we need desperately. In terms of off the production line, plug him into the Tigers system in terms of where the holes that we currently have. He is the perfect prototype. Hard, no nonsense, good both sides of the ball, representative level starting centre, capable of playing wing. Obviously, Taylor as well. In fact, he had a lot of his good footy was on the wing originally, but obviously there's going to be a lot of people, and I've read both sides of the aisle around it, just given the nature of the original charges, albeit they're dropped. I think people form their own conclusions about the guilty nature of certain parties, and people carry preconceptions about people. I get it. I understand that. Rugby league, in a lot of ways, has always been a game of second chances, and considering the fact that he is free to play, if it's not us, someone else will grab him the next moment as soon as we pass. No, I've got no doubt about that whatsoever. And how often do you get people fall in your lap, quite possibly like that? Again, I'm not saying it's a fait accompli. I know I'm probably speaking as if it is. I believe
we actually did say it's a fait accompli before.
Yeah, well,
those are exact words.
I think you're.
You can listen back.
I'll be glad to. But I think I think he will be there. So yeah, it's a hard one. It comes down to, look, if he had been found guilty and then had served his time and then come out, I don't think that's probably a discussion that we're having. I think that most NRL clubs would see that as in a negative light, I should say. But I think, considering the rugby league is generally a game that tends to, in most situations, provide second chances to people, and we have seen people come back and make success stories of themselves off the back of that. And there's countless examples of people that have done so. Adam Fanua-Blake, a classic example right now. Top of the game, best prop in the competition, pushing ass at the moment.
What happened to him again?
He had issues years ago as well. He had some DV stuff that was hanging around him for a little while. There was a lot of rumours around some of his associations and whatnot. Whether or not that was true, or who's to know? But he's another person who has turned his career around, his life around. Russell Packer was another, even though we didn't get the best out of him. So it has been done, and who knows? Who knows where it goes? One thing we would have to say, though, is it would have to be a contract that would look after the West Tigers first. You'd have to say.
Absolutely. I think it's a second chance for him, and he needs to look at it like that. He's put himself in that situation his track record wasn't great up until the Chargers as well. That
Yeah.
was driving
correct.
around like an idiot in a 40 zone, I think. So kids around, things like that.
There's a current AVO's out against him still from his wife, and there was an incident at a pub a few years back too where he struck someone.
Yeah, so it's got to be a very ironclad contract in terms of you got to get counselling, you got to get X, Y, Z, you got to do X, you got to do. But that's why I think having Terrell at the club will be a great thing for him. Not just Terrell, but Romy and Tito, because obviously they're all very close.
Yeah.
So I think that's a good thing, and I think there is a chance that if we do sign him, those guys will be extremely positive. And then at the same time, Benji. Benji's still, when you think of coaches, he's very, very young. I mean, he's 2 years older than us. So he's very, very young. And, he's been through the ringers as well. Obviously never really got himself in shit before. But, his upbringing, he had a rough upbringing. He can understand, he can relate, all this jazz. So, it's if he really wanted to think about not just professional improvement, but personal improvement, I don't actually think he could go better than us.
Yeah, there's definitely would be a lot of support around him at the Tigers. Oh, look, for me, mate, I think first and foremost, if he's interested, Tigers are clearly interested. Everything would point to that. Makes perfect sense. But he's got to decide if he wants to come back and play football and do it right. And if he doesn't, so be it. You've seen he dropped some rap music video or something this afternoon or whatever it was. So if that's where his head is, then let him do that. I wouldn't even bother trying to convince. So if he's there, he's ready for football, and he's seems focused, then I'd have him in a heartbeat, provided we looked after the club.
Yeah, well, I don't know if you follow Terrell on YouTube or anything like that, but there's like instances of him showing his training and Terrell and Talon's there, so he's still keeping up with his training and things like that. So
he is.
Yeah,
he is. Well, we'll wait and see. We'll wait and see what happens and transpires there. But he is effectively a free agent if he wants to be. The no-fault stand-down policy is now lifted. Falani said he's good to go. The NRL will consider any contract that comes across their desk. So if he wants to play footy, I guarantee you, mate, it's paying 101. Sorry, it's paying $1.01. Betting suspended that he'll be at an NRL club if he decides he wants to come back.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mate, the next thing I wanted to mention is something right up your alley, which was something I just picked up across the media landscape over the weekend.
You mean the
one
douchebag
Philip
landscape?
Rothfield. Yeah, and look, I'm not going to just sit here and whinge about the journos. We know where they stand, but this was something that particularly caught my eye. I couldn't believe it. So, yeah, he's got his weekly columns, and he says what he says. He's got highlight 1, Manly spectacular opening. Highlight 2, magnificent Brisbane Broncos. His first low light, not Parramatta getting thumped 40-something in the first half. Not the Roosters, who were abysmal. No. It was no action taken by the match review committee from Jack Bird giving Phoenix Crosland's hair a little pull. That was his low light for the entire weekend. Oh, and then he mentioned something about Stephen Crichton escaping sin bin for dropping knees into Tuipulotu. But that came second to Jack Bird's hair pull. That was his big low light for the weekend. Righto. Okay, so I keep scrolling down. Shush. This is usually his little secret segment. We're hearing the West Tigers are one of several clubs closely monitoring the legal case of Taylor May. Okay, they're looking for a centre, are they? And he's facing domestic violence charges. Yes, he is. He's pled not guilty. Okay, so all right, glad he's put that in there. Okay, great. Move down to the next one. Spotted. Oh, that's another West Tigers one. Lucky us. Benji Marshall said in a pre-game interview at Campbelltown that Tigers work hard on defence in the off-season. Again, then goes on to say, then they missed 55 tackles against the Knights.
How is that spotted?
Which is true.
Is that spotted?
Correct. What's that got to do with anything? Now, not only that, how many times did he mention when the Bulldogs last year had diabolical missed tackle counts, but yet were only conceding 2 or 3 tries a game, which is what happened with us on the weekend.
Mhm.
Call it Newcastle's unforced errors. Call it our defensive structures making them second guess their options, rushing their plays. Call it pressure from certain angles or whatever it might be. Yeah, we missed 55 tackles. Why is he mentioning that? We conceded 2 tries. It was a 2-point game. 3 little articles there where he's tried to weave some form of negative association with the West Tigers wherever he possibly can. 3 from 3. So, look, you bang on the money when you whinge about him, and we're all sick of hearing you whinge about him, but you are correct. You're 100% correct. You know you're correct.
I feel like I've got a category already talking about the pathways. I feel like I need another category talking about the shitheads
For
of
the
the media.
segment. No,
Yeah.
mate, I think, it took us 3.5 years and near on 100 episodes for me to give you a segment. Don't fucking get too greedy, all right, mate?
Excuse me.
Excuse me,
earned
mate.
that shit.
Champion, I walk you into that. I introduce you. Speaking of which, ladies and gentlemen, it is time for the weekly episode, backed by popular man, of Toby's Pathways Roundup.
I don't know if there's music supposed to be playing, but it's not playing on my end.
Okay. Away you go.
Well, like I just said then, I don't know. I couldn't actually hear the music then. So hopefully it comes
Good.
through.
Well, that would just keep with our tech record. Something
It
failing on
would.
the
It
100th show.
would. I think we need
Would.
Best on Ground to have a look at this tech shit.
We changed nothing about that, so.
There you go. So, going through the pathways this week, which now includes New South Wales Cup. Okay, now I've got it coming through my end again.
You got it that time.
Would you stop fucking around with things? I'm trying to talk.
Sorry, mate. It's your segment. Away you go.
This is a great 100th episode, isn't it?
It is flying.
It is doing so good.
I figured out why you didn't hear it.
Because I'm deaf?
No, because anyway, we'll talk about it after the show. We've worked it out. We've got rid of the bug. Toby's Pathways Roundup.
All right, cool. Again, so going through the junior pathways, which includes the knock-on New South Wales Cup, knock-on effect New South Wales Cup. So this week we played the Knights down at Lincoln, lost 36-10. Had a new winger join us just in time for that kickoff in Isaac Thompson. I believe his last name is changed. You just mentioned to me before. Don't know what that is.
Yeah, Tui Tupu, I think.
Tui
goes
Tupu.
by now.
Okay.
Yeah. So reserve grader from South. He's played a few games on, I think, the wing in first grade.
Yeah, he's played a few there. So he's a big winger, 192 centimeters, but he's solid as. But he's old. He's 28. So, but
that's
yeah,
old, mate. 28. Whew, it's getting on there.
It's getting on. 10 years younger than us. But from all reports, it wasn't a great showing. A lot of poor mistakes. Didn't watch the game, obviously, but it was definitely didn't show much signs of improvement from last year, which is disappointing. I think they'll be much improved this week because they've got a few people back from that played NRL in terms of Mason and Hope. But another big one that I didn't notice it until we were talking about it before the show is that David Clemmer was excluded, and he hasn't been named at all this week as well. Do you reckon you can shed some light on that?
No. I don't have any information around that, but my assumption is just that the move to the Dragons is obviously imminent. So that's what it seems like to me. Provided they sort out the Molo situation, obviously over there at St George, but the withdrawal and the non-naming this week, as far as I was explaining to you before the show from my perspective, is simply so they may have given him the option, is my assumption, just said, look, Dave, mate, if you want to have a game, you can do. Otherwise, it's up to you. If you want to sort of save yourself and not get injured or not get hurt, then we're happy to see you sit on the sideline for a couple of weeks until you can get yourself across there. You'd mentioned that you weren't overly happy with how the Clemmer situation came across, and I guess I can understand what you're talking about there. It seems like he's been sort of shut out. But my take on the situation is more so that basically they've probably come to him and said, look, mate, you're a seasoned campaigner. We've gotten Terrell and Royce in. We're going to go in a different direction. So that means that the contract for next year, we probably won't activate it, given that you need 14 games. So with our blessing, if you can get a couple of years somewhere and get that extra year out, if you're keen to go around again next year, look around, see what you can find. We're happy to keep you this year in the meantime, but it'll be maybe a New South Wales Cup split, which they're entitled to do. And then he's gone away, found a Dragons deal, and that's why I'm assuming it's all happened. It doesn't seem to me as though there's any bad blood there.
It doesn't look like it, hey.
Yeah, and you can only go off small observations and whatnot, training photos and interviews and whatever else, and just how they appear. That's obviously a very superficial view on it, but, we're never probably going to know, but I think he's likely to be at the Dragons sooner rather than later, I would say.
Well, it seems that the Roosters are looking at Molo as an immediate move, so if that happens, you dare say that the signing of Clement will be announced. But yeah, I wasn't a fan of how he was being treated. I thought he was a loyal servant. I thought he was one of our best 2 years ago. Last year, he wasn't as good as his first year, but he was still consistent. But yeah, after you put it in that light, it makes a lot more sense. Given that not even the journos can fabricate anything about bad blood. So, so to continue on, I'll go through the Jersey flag. So again, went down to the Knights, 34-26. So obviously the Knights beat us in all three grades, bastards. If we look at the SG Ball Magpies, we beat the Warriors 22-18. So that's 2 wins on the trot now for the Magpies. It looks like no, he didn't get it. Oh yeah, Makasini did get a 4-pointer and only kicked. Well, they had 4 different goal kickers that game. That's interesting. Usually Makasini does it all, but there you go. Any word, is Makasini injured or anything like that? Is that why he's not kicking?
No, I haven't heard anything. There's more than just him in that side. We've got to remember though as well.
Yeah, but he's been doing most of the goal kicking, but he hasn't been great either. Actually, he's had a pretty shocking record off the boot. Kicking. So yeah.
He scored a nice try off a bit of a line run on the weekend. Saw him slice through for that one, which is good. He's obviously, a reminder, he's 17 playing against, or in the under-19s comps, playing against 19-year-olds or early 19-year-olds. It's easy to forget. But I was going to say before that Archie Duncan, apparently, another name we've mentioned a couple of times, had a bit of a stormer of a game, I think, involved in a try assist or so, and maybe scored one himself. I can't recall. He might have there, whether he got over the line or not.
He didn't get over the line, no, but he set up a late try for Colin Lewis.
Right. So, had quite the game. So it's good to see that they're sharing some of the solid performances around.
Oh, no, actually, Duncan, sorry, I'll take that back. Duncan did get a try. I just saw it then.
Yeah, okay.
So you are right.
I thought I'd seen it.
So when we go to the Tigers SG Ball, we beat the Doggies 30-22. So back in the winner's circle. So I think that's 4-1, I believe.
For Balmain?
The Tigers winning record. Yeah, the Balmain winning record. So it's not too bad. Harold Matts. It's Magpies.
5-1. Do you say 4-1 or 5-1?
5-1. No, I did say 4-1. I did say 4-1. Sorry.
Yeah.
5-1.
Yeah, 5-1. And the Maggies are actually 3-3. They're sitting in 9th, and they're 3 on the trot after their horrible start. So they are starting to climb.
There you go. Excuse me. For the Harold Matts Magpies, like I mentioned, we went down to the Warriors 34-10. And that actually rounds it all out that I can see. So that is it, looking at the youth and I guess the reserves. So
it's probably about time, mate. We're a good 20-odd minutes in to jump in and have a bit of a chat about the Knights game. We'll jump in and do that, and then we'll have a little conversation about what we're doing for our giveaway for our 100th.
Yep.
And, mate, we'll have a look ahead to Parramatta. So, obviously, 8-10 Campbelltown, Friday evening last week. Decent little attendance of 13,000 in the rain. So, well done to the brave souls that went out there and supported the boys down at Campbelltown, given the weather. Bit of a dare old game in a lot of ways. I've watched it twice and watched the highlights a bunch of times. What was your one sentence takeaway? I'll give you two. What was your 2 sentence?
Two sentence. I can probably do it in one word, and for me, it was just inconsistent. There were flashes of good stuff. There were flashes of bad stuff. There was a lot of wrinkles that need ironing out. But I did see a lot to like. So
okay, elaborate on that a bit for me.
So there were times where there was some. There's no excuse for laziness in round one. You're fresh. You're not halfway through a season or at the end of a season, and there was a bit of laziness, and particularly from Pole. I saw Pole not as barnstorming as he was, I guess, in the last trial.
He had one hell of a run.
With the ball, I thought he was great. I think he ran for... What did he run for? Oh, he only ran for 86 meters. Okay, maybe it wasn't. I read something else there. But defensively, so remember when Ponga skipped through and went to pass it back and Romy tipped it backwards and picked it up? That was actually because Pole was half-pace jogging to close that gap. And so that was like at the 20th minute mark, not even. And I'm like, I get cobwebs. I get that. But that's laziness. And that infuriated me. I was quite angry with that. But then on the flip side, and this was something I mentioned to you before the pod, I thought actually one of our biggest concerns going into the game was our edge defenses. Excuse me. Now I think Far Tape got a bath and it annoyed me. But I actually think defensively, someone who we've been quite concerned about, Dewey, I actually thought defensively he was quite strong. I think he contained Gago quite well. Granted, they didn't get the ball anywhere near as much as Bradman did because that was obviously their game plan because Ponga loves that sweep around the back, especially from a left-hand side because then he can just bang straight off the left foot, straight through. But when it did go there, I think he contained Gagai quite well. So that was a positive for me. And like I said, we'll go through the team list, we'll go through the stats and things like that. But there was a fair few performances that I was extremely impressed with. And I think the ones that I wasn't so impressed with have basically been replaced. So, yeah. What about yourself?
I was feeling relatively upbeat over the course of the game, given the fact that it was 8-0 after half time. And I thought we were playing awful. Like the Knights, I think that when people were describing the way the Knights were playing, I think what they were describing was not the quality of how the Knights were playing, but more their execution. So I thought the Knights were playing quite well. They were defending extremely well. The Knights, what they were getting away with in the ruck, though, was an absolute disgrace. And I reckon that's a major reason why we really struggled on the weekend, particularly in that first stint in terms of go forward. You look at the likes of Pole not running for 100 metres, from what we've seen in a lot of ways, I would argue that doesn't happen very often for him, particularly when he starts. And it destroyed Tristan Hope's ability to get in the game early. And then it sustained for quite some time. And then we saw once the game broke down a little bit and we saw that they weren't able to control that ruck because of fatigue quite as well. Talon De Silva sort of come into the game a little bit around it. So I thought that was something that really affected us. And I was spewing because I thought that was quite holding us back. And I thought we could have actually put on a few points off the back of that. Playing that flat sort of style only works if you have ruck speed and you can get them backpedaling. And it looks to me like we're playing really flat and playing over the ad line, but you can't do that when you have a Newcastle slowing the ruck down to an insane degree. Let me just find what the ruck speed was. Something ridiculous. It was over 4 seconds. The play the ball speed was nearly 4.2 seconds. Theirs was 3.64.
Oh.
Generally speaking, 3.6, 3.8, under 3.5 is good. generally speaking. Over 4 is diabolical. It's not very often that you'd see a decent team. Go back and have a look through the stats for the other teams over the course of the weekend.
Isn't letter of the law in terms of the rule book 1, 2, 3 break? You have to start moving after 3 seconds. You have to.
I don't think. I don't know.
Well,
I don't know. I don't know what the rule actually says around that. But I think given
I feel like it is, but I could be making shit up.
Maybe. But I think given that there's so many variables in a tackle that I think that I don't know that they go off that. But you might be right. I'm not sure. But to circle all the way back, I was feeling upbeat, and then in the second half, once the game did open up a little bit, it exposed our ability because we weren't getting stifled. We actually had opportunity, and we had a bit of momentum. And then I started to be a little bit worried because once we had that momentum, we finally got some good territory eventually in that second half, and then we got on a roll. We had sets on their line. We didn't look particularly great, even when the ruck speed had I guess, sped up a little bit. That was a concern. Look, that's a game where if we had a 8-6 or whatever it might have been, 12-10, 14-10, if we had got away with that one, I would have felt like we got out of jail because I thought we were awful. That's the plus side because I think that there is just worlds of improvement across the park. Missing half our spine. We had Jerome Luai, 4-time premiership winner, in his first game for the West Tigers. Didn't play a trial, coming off a quad injury. The rest of the entire spine was 19 years old. So we got that big change coming in.
Then you also remember we also had a debutant at the hooker.
Yeah, exactly. Starting hooker, debutant who first. Yeah, exactly right. There's a lot of variables around that, but I think in a lot of ways, particularly early, the ruck is what prevented us to get into the game, and I think that's a big reason why our hookers looked, to be honest, quite average until Talon started to break the game down a little bit. I don't think it was the fault necessarily of Hope, but I think that our ruck was destroyed. So I think that's a big area that we need to improve. And I do think that having the likes of Buller and Appy back this coming week, which we'll talk about shortly, is gigantic for a number of reasons, but it just sharpens the attack in all the areas that we failed. The hooking service and the hooking guile around that ruck will be better, which will have that flow-on effect. So the ruck will be better unless Parramatta get away with Blue Murder this weekend. And then what Jareem can do out the back in terms of, one, safety. Mason's still learning the trade. And two, what he does on backline swings is improving all the time. But I think, I know that it offers a lot more than what we saw out of Mason in that regard alone on the weekend. So I think we've got a lot of improvement in us across the board. And I think that there are a lot of reasons and a lot of, not so much excuses, but I guess reasons is the right word. A lot of reasons why we put in that performance on the weekend. I would have loved a win. I think our narrative deserved a win, or I think there was expectation of a win. Maybe we have to wait a little bit. And I think this is going to be a slow burn. I think it's going to be uncomfortably longer than people want it to be for this team to start looking like they're gelling.
Yeah. And I think there's a lot of, if we talk about individual performances, there was a lot of people that didn't fire that I expected to fire. I didn't expect the world from Hope, but I expected better service. Granted, took him out of the game. Like you say, those ruck speed and things like that. The thing that was annoying me is how slow his pass was from dummy half.
Yeah.
Very, very slow. It was giving the defense that extra half a second to get off the line. And that was
it really was
very evident.
100%. 100%. That extra half step. And he wasn't passing from the ground.
No, he wasn't. And that was the thing. I don't know. Because that's not something we saw in the trials from him. So
I think he was nervous.
I don't know.
I think he didn't. I think he didn't want to throw a miss pass. in his NRL debut, and so he was taking his time, which obviously on a somewhat of a rushing defence where they're trying to slow that ruck down to get on top of a flat attack. It's just it costs us so bad. It costs us so dearly. It's that half second, that quarter second,
and that's everything. That's what 3 steps.
Yeah.
So, and the other one was, everyone in the media is talking about, because Dylan Brown's gone to Newcastle, Eels are going to go heavy after Galvin, all that jazz. I actually thought he had his worst game he's played for us. I think whether he was in his head too much. I feel like the thing that made Galvin so, I guess, destructive last year was he wasn't in his head. He was playing off instinct all the time. And his instinct was usually on the money. But it looked like he was in his head, wasn't making the right choices, choosing to kick. He became too predictable. And the thing about last year was he would hold up the ball so perfectly, and then that pinpoint pass to his winger, because hanging back waiting for that deft kick was holding up that winger for half a second, and so he can get that ball out to the winger and score. That was so like he was making the edge defense always question themselves. But in this game, it was kick after kick after kick after kick after kick. And that, I guarantee you, Benji didn't say, go, I just want you to kick. So it made me feel like he got in his head a bit too much and he wasn't trusting what he could do. Now, I'm hoping that's a one-off, because I think he's got a lot of upside to him, and I'd love to re-sign him forever. But for me, that is potentially, and I'm saying potentially, and it's one game, I hope I eat my words, but it's potentially the start of second-year syndrome. It's if that's the case, you might be 100% right with your comment last week in terms of Latu kicking down the door a little bit. Because Latu too, you have a look at the New South Wales Cup lineup this week. Latu's been shifted to 5'8". Mason's at 7. So
I think that speaks to a couple of. I think there's a couple of reasons why they're doing that. I thought the same about Lockie on the weekend too, and then I rewatched the game, and I think that the three attacking sets where he swung to the left, sort of crabbed sideways and then put the grubber in, and all three came up with absolute bupkis. I think that really painted over his game as a whole, and I think that's what sticks, rightly so, in people's mind. There were 3 wrong options, and it looked like they were I'm out of answers options, so I'll stick the toe in. That was the concern. He actually ran quite well. He ran for
148 metres.
Yeah, he did. He poked his nose through a number of times where if we had a buller or whatnot sniffing around, there was offload opportunities there, and people have got to learn how and when he runs the football, because I noticed that when he chooses to go, it does catch defences off guard. He's big and lanky and gangly, and he, more often than not, has an arm ready to pop, but there's never anybody there with him, so that's something they can add to it. He didn't have a great game, and I think that it was exaggerated by some of the choices that he made. I think part of that can be put on Luai. I think Luai should have recognised earlier and taken over. I think that he was throwing the ball to Lockie to basically, I guess maybe in some ways earn his trust. That's not the right phrase even as it comes out of my mouth though, but I think that it showed Lachlan that he's willing to allow him to overcall him early. I also think that maybe he wanted to see a bit of what Lockie could do. I don't for a minute think that Luai was happy to let the game go just for an experiment, but I would have liked to see a little bit more out of him in that regard. The other thing with Lachlan Galvin is maybe his head wasn't in the game, because if I look at his defensive stats, he was uncharacteristically awful on the weekend. He wasn't the only one. There's some pretty poor stats in 55 missed tackles and a few ineffective, might I add. But Lachlan Galvin tackled at 72%, which for him, he's normally quite a remarkable, very strong defender. 16 made, 4 missed, 2 ineffective. Ineffective being obviously when you make the tackle, you don't drop off, but they get an offload away or something along those lines, connected to that, I think. So, yeah, I don't think he was as bad, at least for mine, he wasn't as bad as originally thought, but it's a slow burn there. It's going to be. And like I said before, it's going to take an uncomfortably longer period of time than people want it to, I think, for these things to click. But no doubt having the 2 ads in this weekend, or 2 add-ins, 3 add-ins for that matter, is going to help that combination. I think over time we're going to see it get better.
Yeah, and like I think more to that point, we talk about Luai. I think Luai's got definitely some work to do in terms of leadership, and we all know he can do it. There's no two ways about that. I think he was definitely vocal in the field. You know, I loved when he first came out of the tunnel and just screamed. I was like, that's awesome. That's so good. But a very clear indication that he needs to start knowing that he's a leader. He is a huge leader in this group. Is when we went to take the penalty goal, he's off on the other side of the field having a drink of water. Adam Dewey had to make the call. So I'm like, it's a very little thing. It's a very little thing. Yeah. But for me, that is leadership awareness. That is understanding that, you know, there's a decision to be made here that is for the captain. And you need to make it. You can't be sitting to the sidelines having a drink of water. I'm not saying that he doesn't have it, because I know he has leadership skills. It just shows that he still has some growing to do in that space. And
no doubt. No doubt. He's somebody who needs to grow into that role, and he's got enough of a taste of it, but he's a freshman leader in that regard, at least as a captain. But I think he's in a good environment to learn that.
Oh, and that's what I said. Like, I've got no doubt that he can, and he will. And I think another good thing too is, excuse me, I watched the new show on Fox Sports, Maddie and Cooper. I can't remember what it's called. I actually love it. I think it's great because all they do is talk footy and strategically, like, how it should go, rather than those Muppets at 360. But Cronk said something that really stuck with me, and it was Luai's used to a forward pack going probably an extra 10 to 15 meters a set forward, which gives Luai a little bit more of that. It gives him a little bit more to work with in terms of putting up that straight bomb so that it's close to the in goal. And he knows how to do that time and time again. Without that 15 meters, he has to try to push it. And because he doesn't know exactly how to push it, that's when he kicks it in goal and Ponga takes that 7 tackle set. And it was really interesting because I thought about it. I'm like, there was a lot of instances like that where it's not that he looked lost. It was like it wasn't what he expected. And it's not what it looked like. Used to. What's that?
You know what it looked like? It looked like Appy's first month at the Tigers when he arrived.
Yeah.
And when Appy was playing Penrith Appy, and he'd go out and he'd turn around, there'd be no one with him.
There. Yeah, I do.
And people just didn't know at the time how to play with him and what they should be doing. And now players come with Appy far better. We haven't spoken about that, or the lack of that, for a long time.
Well, I remember you vividly. I remember vividly you saying that like 2 or 3 years ago. It's like, it's not that Appy is playing bad. It's that he's 3 steps ahead of everyone else, that no one knows how to play up with him. I remember you saying that. I'm like, yeah, no, it's true.
Yeah, but with Jerome, I think it's just as much he needs to adapt himself as much as the team needs to adapt to Jerome. It needs to be both. Whereas with Appy, it was a case of Appy's right. Whatever he was doing in that situation, his hooker play was correct. Whatever we were doing as a squad was wrong. We need to adapt into that. But I think in this situation, it's got to be both ends, and it will happen. I've got no doubt it will happen. There's so many firsts there on the weekend. You know, look at all the people that came into the side and everything that contributed to that. They led a final side that was at near basically full strength at halftime, 8-0. They kept them to 0. When was the last time they kept a side to 0 at halftime? And they let 2 tries in all game.
They did put a stat out for that. It was 2021.
Yeah, there you go. Okay.
Yeah.
That's
remember they
that's
said
not
that in
being talked.
commentary.
That's not being talked about. And I know that Newcastle bombed a few tries, probably at least 2 certain tries. But so what?
Did they bomb them because he
If
put the pressure on them?
if Brad, it may be that, yeah. But if Bradman Best can't execute a certain pass or whatever it might be, what is the difference between that and Lockie Galvin not executing a perfect kick so that Skelton can get a touchdown in the corner? There's no difference. And so who's to say that some, there's obviously some tries are closer to being scored and they're more obvious howling bombs or like your bomber try. Obviously that's the case. But if we're talking about things like that, then, a lot of that does come out in the wash. So let's not go away from the fact that, considering where this side has come from, considering how little of a preseason a lot of them have had, considering 3 19-year-olds in the spine, considering Jerome Luai's first game together, considering we were missing, as I mentioned, our fullback and our hooker, considering there was how many? 6 new faces, 7 new faces from last year?
Yep.
A handful of them had a short preseason, including our captain and halfback, including our best player on the field on the weekend, Terrell May. So, look,
but then
there was a
also
lot
we didn't have our first choice centres.
No, exactly. We're on to our 5th
Yeah.
choice. So, Olam's gone and will be gone. Obviously, we've got Naden who's out, who fair chance to get a run.
Yep.
Dewey, depends where you put him. I put him at 3 or 4, not number 2. And then you've got Toa, and then you've got Fatape. We'll start with Fatape. Are those excuses? Partly. Are they also things that you can be impressed by, considering that all those things were in place in round 1? We're coming up against what is a decent side who look pretty strong at basically full strength. Kalen Ponga played. He had a couple of things early, but he played very well. He didn't have an off game. He was the difference in a lot of ways in some of those grubbers and kicks and whatnot.
Him getting out of the in goal twice.
Yeah, exactly right. Big plays from their superstar man in that regard. So, I guess if I want to look at a silver lining, the Tigers of the past would have got thumped easily and dropped their bundle. This Tigers side didn't. And they played, in my opinion, pretty awfully. And yet they were still in front, still leading the Knights 8-0 into the second half. So disappointing as all hell. Frustrating. Not a quality game. But is there stuff to take out of it? I reckon there's 1,000 positives to take out of it. There is a lot of negatives also. But it depends upon perspective, as it always does, but 55 missed tackles or 2 tries only and broken play, off one of them being off broken play. So, it depends on how you want to look at the game. It is round 1. But let's get into a few positives, and we've been a bit of back and forth. We won't go through the full squad this week because we do have a bit of a long show. We've still got a Parramatta.
Do you just want to do our sink and swim?
In a moment, yeah. We've still got a Parramatta and a giveaway to give away. So, we could look at sink or lift, mate. I just wanted to basically shine a light on a couple of positives.
Yep.
And you let me know what you thought. I thought that Jarrell Skelton was absolutely sensational, and he had the most interesting tackle efficiency stat on the weekend. He doesn't have a tackle efficiency. You know why?
Didn't make a tackle?
0 tackles made, 3 missed.
Ouch.
Yeah, so you can't have a percentage if you didn't complete one. So in everything else he did, absolutely outstanding. What an absolute beast that man is.
200
and then
meters.
Terrell May, mate.
Oh, my God. He is everything that we've needed for forever.
Yeah. 65 minutes. Excuse me. He 65 minutes, 21 runs, 189 metres, 70 post-contact metres. Play the ball speed, under 4, so under the team average, which you expect to see. 34 tackles, 0 missed, and then 3 ineffective. Tackling at near on 92% in a side that struggled to get into the 80% range, to be honest.
5 offloads as well.
5 offloads, absolutely. At one stage, he was dishing the ball on. They were passing it to him as the go-to man in the middle.
He was the reason that Skelton went in the 12, popped it back. May passed it out to Luai. Luai passed to Dewey. Dewey passed to Skelton.
Yeah, impressive. Very impressive. He's backing it up.
Very impressive. Very, very impressive.
And the other thing I liked, again, I'm liking what Jack Bird's bringing. He's missing a few tackles, but he goes. You know he's going to go that second effort. I'm liking that impact off the bench. We didn't see much of Sione, but I'm liking what Royce Hunt and Bird as a duo are bringing on, and I'm excited to see that happen on the weekend. Hopefully, we've got some good run of play at the time. I'm looking forward, I should say, to seeing those two come on along with a fresh Tallender Silver at the back end of the first half to sort of cause a bit of havoc.
Yeah. I think it was another situation where if we had a bit better service from dummy half, I think Bird would have been in the picture a lot more.
Yeah, quite possibly.
So,
I think that'll be arrested this week with Appy coming in.
agree.
Mate, anything else you want to mention about the Knights game on the weekend before we move on?
No, I think we've beat that one to death.
Giveaway time. Ladies and gentlemen.
Swim, mate, what are you doing? Don't move past it before the sink or swim.
Sink or swim?
Close this out.
Oh, you want to do your sink or swim. All right,
yeah.
Fine. It was lift or sink, by the way, but no worries. You forgot what the segment's called.
Whatever.
Thank you for reminding me of it.
Just keep swimming.
Okay, who are you lifting?
Oh, we all know that. That's Terrell. That's fine. I think my sink is Fartape. I think he made too many bad reads in my eyes, way too many. And that break from Lucas that shouldn't have happened, he should have got stopped. But the fact that he got through there at all is all Fartape's fault. So, yeah.
Okay.
My two.
My lift is not necessarily a standout. It's someone who is impressing me week on week in what he's offering, and it's going to be Birdie. I'm loving what Jack Bird's doing at the moment. I think he's providing a spark and a point of difference around the centre, and I would have been amazing to have him 5 years ago, and he'd be a lock for a starting lock. But I think the role he's playing at the moment, very impressive. I'd like to see where he goes from there. My sink is Pole. That was not good enough on the weekend. Without going too much into his stats, failed to run for 100 metres, and he made. How many missed tackles did Pole have in the end? Do you recall, mate? Where are we? Just so I get it right. His tackle efficiency was 73%, 25 made, 7 missed, 2 ineffective. So Fanu was far better than that, and I expect to see him improve from that showing there on the weekend. So he's my sink. Hopefully that turns around this week. May we move on, mate? I'm a bit excited.
Yeah, all right. Let's move on.
Okay, giveaway time. We are doing a giveaway, which is exciting for our 100th show.
Yeah, bloody oath.
Mate, so what we're giving away is a brand new West Tigers clean off the shelf 2025 jersey, black edition, size extra large, pepper money there. No Brydens on that one. Still smells like the store, mate. Do you want to tell the folks how people can get themselves in the entry for this? Absolutely free entry, of course. We're not interested in taking money off anybody. It is a giveaway. What do you need to enter, mate?
So, mate, to enter, what you guys need to do is one, whatever platform we've shared this on, and whatever group it is, you need to share it, and then comment on it with tagging a mate. That's how we go, just so we can just start to really build everyone up, grow together, and make sure that everyone is just, what is it? What's the saying you keep saying? Like, all tides lift all ships or something along those lines?
Rising tide lifts all ships.
That's the one. So, like I said, share, and then tag a mate in the comments. That's how you go into the running for this. And the good thing is, too, if you're across, obviously we share this in different groups, but if you're across, I think we share it in the ambush, we share it West Tigers Supporters Club or group, whatever it's called, and then a couple of others. If you're in all those groups as well, you give yourself more opportunity to win this jersey.
Yeah, exactly right. And the emphasis just being on the sharing and the tagging, I think, mate, isn't it? We'll have the metrics on that, and we'll pull out a lucky winner. Reason being, I guess, around that, the sharing and the tagging is we find it hard because we don't like promoting ourselves, so we find it hard to, get our little humble show in front of people's ears, and we find that when we do, it's all through word of mouth. And so we thought it was a good chance that if you do enjoy the show and you think that somebody else might, Tigers fan or otherwise, probably a Tigers fan.
Probably. I don't think my dad would wear that jersey.
No, true, but he might have a son or two that he might be able to win it, and then give to for Christmas to show how much he loves them.
He hasn't given me a Christmas present in 20 years. So.
I was talking about your brother, mate.
Yeah, true.
So we're going to run this, mate, for.
We'll be running this for a month up until Easter Monday.
So
Easter Monday.
Parramatta to Parramatta. So
yep.
We'll be drawing it leading up to the Easter Monday game, and when we do,
get it off your mic, champion.
Oh, is it on my mic?
The jersey's on your mic. I know you love the jersey. I know you want to hug it and cuddle it, but we need to hear what you're saying too. Sorry,
mate. Look, amateur hour over here, 100 episodes. You think we'd get it right, ladies and gents? So again, just to keep it super simple. In order to do that, you need to, when we post up on our Facebook or our platforms, obviously respectively, you just simply need to share us sharing our show. So just go in and hit the share button, and then when you go in, just add a comment as well, just tagging a mate of some description, even someone that you want to annoy him, just to help get the word out there. So thank you very much. If you're interested in winning that jersey, we'll run that for a month, and we're going to keep track of all those names and all that data, and we'll be reminding you each and every week for those people that are interested. You can do it a bunch of times too. So the new one is obviously a new entry. So we'll have 3 or 4 episodes in that time, I think. And over that time, every time you do share, every time you do tag someone, then you'll get another entry in that.
Absolutely.
As well. So pretty exciting. I'm keen.
Yeah, me too. It's
hey, question for you: if you and I like and don't like so much, but if we share and tag someone, can we go in to win it?
No. We've already got jerseys, dickhead.
I know, but you can't have too many, surely.
Well, I mean,
you've got the orange one. You don't have the black one.
I don't have the black one yet. And in that cupboard behind me, I've got about 15 jerseys in there. I don't think my wife would be stoked if I bought 2 in 1 year.
You're running out of space.
I'm not buying it. I'm winning it.
Good point. Exactly.
But no, we can't.
That's an interesting idea for a segment one day. We should pull out our jersey collections and.
I've got one that's been signed by the 2020 side. So.
Impressive. I've got a couple of old Balmain ones too. A tiny little one when I was 3, and it's got Wayne Pearce and Paul Sirenen signatures on it. That's pretty cool.
Oh, that's a collector's item.
Yeah, there's a few of those, which is interesting. Anyway, we're moving on. Thanks for listening to everything in regards to that giveaway. We'll remind people in our little announcements and stuff, and just throw a little reminder once a week or something in there for those that want to enter it. You don't have to. No obligation whatsoever. But if you choose to, then you could win yourself a jersey, which is pretty cool. So we're excited to do that. So thanks very much. And thanks to our sponsors there, Best on Ground Digital as well, for allowing these types of things to happen. That's awesome.
Just remember too, if you like, share, and tag a mate, that's 3 entries. That's not 1, that's 3.
Even for liking, are we being that generous?
We are being that generous.
Mate.
Yep.
We can lift the bar more than that, surely.
No. Give them easy options. Give our listeners something they deserve.
Okay. Oh, I won't argue with you, mate. There you go, folks. So if you even just a simple like on one of our posts gets you an entry, man, crazy. That's going to be quite difficult I'm going to have to tell some family members to go in real covert. Anyway, let's move on, mate. We're getting long in the tooth. We're nearly at the hour mark. Let's get into this game on the weekend. So round 2 against the Slimy Eels, Sunday, the 16th of March, 3:05 p.m. out there at Combank Stadium. Quite some big ends, as I mentioned earlier. Our side lines up as follows. Buller returns at fullback with Sania Taruva and Skelton on the wings. Adam Dewey and Stafford Toa returns in the centres, Lachlan Galvin, Jerome Luai are the halves once again. Darrell May and Fanua Pole are the starting front rowers, with Api Coruscant returning at hooker from suspension, which is a big in as well, obviously co-captain there with Luai. We've then got Fainu Samuela of the Samuela variety and Seyfarth as our edges, with Twal locking the scrum. Not passing, but locking the scrum, that's for sure. 14 is De Silva, Royce Hunt, Jack Bird, Sione Fainu. Why am I stumbling over a name I've said 1,000 times? Round out the 17. Our extended list then, 18 is Charlie Staines. Interesting. We'll talk about that in a moment. Latu is the 19. Tristan Hope, Tony Suka, and Solomona Fa'atape are the 20, 21, and 22 respectively. The coach is Benjamin Quinton Marshall. Mate, we've discussed a few of the shortcomings. We discussed the outs. What is a big in for you in regards to the side that we've named there?
Well, obviously, we'll take away the Appy part. We all know what Appy brings, but for me, Toa.
Yeah.
I think.
Why?
Just because we know what he can. Like, we've mentioned it time and time again. 2 years ago, he was one of our best. He had a horror run last year with injury. And in the trials, I thought he looked strong. So I'm going to say that that's going to shore up that edge quite significantly. And the thing about Toa is he doesn't make, well, especially recently, he doesn't make stupid impulse defensive decisions. He sticks to structure, especially in the last 2 years. So I think that's a big in for us.
Yeah. Okay. He's for a long time, I think Toa's had his defensive issues, and we've spoken about that a fair bit. And it was that first up contact traditionally. He hovered around a 70% tackle efficiency there for a little while, which was concerning. But as you and I have mentioned, in the trials, he did look improved. His first up contact was better. His intent in defence looked better. A couple of trials, please. But we're hoping every time he would come back, we'd see glimpses of improvements in his game. And the 3 times he came back last year, he got injured within the first game, and it was a shame because he looked good. I think he's threat with the ball, and I think that he's just a more experienced, more seasoned first grader than is Solomona Fatape at the moment. And I think that he's better with and without the ball. And I'm hoping that he comes back and he's due for a good season, because we know when he's off, he can be off as well. So there is still that risk there, but still quite a young man, Stafford. Mate, for me, it's Appy, and it's obvious. You know, we've got our bullet ins, but for me, it's Appy, and it's everything I spoke about with the ruck earlier. I don't think he will allow that to happen. I think he will get the forwards over the ad line better. He'll get them past that second marker better. I think he can get them back between A and B better as well. And yeah, I'm excited to actually see an Appy that gets an opportunity to play limited minutes too. So he'll be fresh. He'll be itching and raring to go. He wasn't injured last week. Obviously, he's suspended. So that would have annoyed him, I'm assuming, as captain of the club, would have been itching to get out there. So I'm expecting quite a big game for him. And it's going to link to my bowl prediction in a moment.
Yep.
I wanted to mention Charlie Staines at 18, just quickly.
It's an interesting one.
It is interesting. He's also named, what it also is interesting is he's named at fullback in New South Wales Cup.
Yeah.
And Mason is named in the halves. Couple of things going on there. Mason originally a half, obviously. They're trying to train into a fullback. Maybe they see him as someone who needs some time in the halves as well. Maybe it's just a better fit, but maybe they think that's a better option. He and Latu playing in the halves there to resharpen up Mason's halves skills as a potential utility option, of which I think is a good call long term. Staines then possibly could be backup fullback. And so on that note, could be still maybe some doubt floating around Buller, even though Benji came out and said he could have played last week. That's something. The other suggestion possibly, and somewhat obviously, I guess, could be that there could be some doubt over one of our wingers. Hope not, because we got a lot out of both of them, particularly Skelton on the weekend. I think Taruva, given the game going his way a bit more in the future, will look a lot better too. So fingers crossed that that's not the case. And yeah, obviously we've got to name an 18 every single week, but the fact it's not Latu this week is, I guess, cause for discussion at the very least.
Well, what I will say is, you say that we got a lot out of our wingers, and I don't doubt that. I mean, I don't dispute that. Charlie Staines at New South Wales Cup last week ran for 184 metres.
There you go.
So
He's
I think that if there is something there, you know, I've said it before, I think he does run hard, he does run with intent, and he had a pretty horrific injury last year. Potentially it's just confidence getting back. I don't think it's a bad backup at all. I hope Bull is
certainly
fit.
not. Certainly not a bad backup.
So I hope Bull is fit. I hope everyone's fit. But yeah.
Look, wing, I think, mate, is one of the areas we have a bit of depth and some strength in this year. You know, we obviously bolstered it.
Of course we do.
Alex Lobb aside, you know, we've got the likes of Naden and Charlie Staines and Luke Leilali'i available when they're all available. Leilali'i obviously out at the moment with HIA, Naden out with his kneecap. And so we've got 3 decent option backups there. I wouldn't be overly concerned. Luke still needs to develop his hands, but outside of that, with the ball, he's great. It's one of the positions we fortunately do have a bit of depth in there.
Yeah, and then now we've signed Thompson as well. So I think we've definitely got some depth there.
Yes, let's just hope we don't have to call on Isaac Tuipupu Thompson, eh?
Better than calling on Alex Lobb.
All right, mate. How does the game play out on the weekend?
I think it's going to be a significantly improved team. I think Buller and Appy are just going to show exactly what the spine can do. And I don't think it's going to be a Storm shellacking, but I think we're going to put 32 on them, and I think they're only going to score about 10.
32-10? Okay. Bold prediction?
I think May will get his first try in Tigers colours.
Okay, there you go. I've got a May bold prediction as well. It's related to Appy.
Well,
I think everything points to...
But that's okay.
What's that?
It's actually March, but that's okay.
Where's that crickets sound effect? I need to have that ready to go. Hang on.
That was great.
I got one. Ready?
Yeah. Yeah, we need that.
I just need to be quicker on it. No, I think May's going to run for over 200 metres. I think everything points to it. He ran for near on 189 metres last week, against a side with a debutant hooker and a 19-year-old replacement hooker against a side that controlled and manipulated and strangled the ruck. Still got 190-odd metres. I think with Appy coming back against a side that's not as quality, due respect to Parramatta, as what Newcastle put out on the weekend. I think he's going to go for over 200. Yeah, easy. I reckon he'll sail past it. He'll do 220, 230.
I think that's a pretty safe bet.
Yeah, well, man, what a performance that would be, but we have to wait and see. And I see us winning 28-16. I actually think we're going to miss the jump. I think we're notorious for that as a club, and I don't have any evidence that it's been fixed or repaired in any way. I think Parramatta can possibly be a side that comes out energetic and are going to be very sporadic in their ability to play high-tempo footy, and I think they're going to get it right off the get-go. I think they're going to go out to 10-0, 12-0, and we're going to have to grind back into the game. I think we'll come back over the top of them, and I think it will be on the back of messages around 80 minutes because we faded badly in that game on the weekend, and I think that the boys will warm to the task. But I wouldn't be surprised if we're behind early. No suggestion as to why. I think that I don't see our side as being, the evidence so far, being a side that can come switched on. They haven't done it in either of the trials, and they didn't do it in round one. I think they have moments as well, and that's how I see it playing out. Hoping for a win. 28-16, I've got us.
Win's a win.
Win's a win, and let's be honest, we're near on full strength. The Eels are struggling big time. They're obviously missing Mitch Moses, being the big one, but they've got a bunch of young players in there as well. They've still got some quality, no doubt. No doubt they've got some quality. But if I'm looking across their side, if there's a time and a team to play early in the year when you're looking to get some confidence on the back of a feel-good narrative that you're trying to build for your club, it's probably this side at the moment. Yep. So fingers crossed that the boys can go and get it done.
Yep, I agree.
Right, anything else you want to add before we sail off into the sunsets?
No.
Sunsets, plural, just the one.
Plural,
just sail
just
off
the one.
into the single sunset. All right. PSA time, mate. So Facebook, Spotify, YouTube, Instagram, and Apple. That's where you'll find us on all those platforms.
Shit, I forgot to. Too late.
Don't forget this week, share, and tag someone. That gets you an entry to win the 2025 jersey, which we'll draw on Easter Monday in a month's time. Don't forget to get around all West Tigers media, West Tigers podcast, West Tigers Faithful podcast, West Tigers Life podcast. I should just say WT. Make my life so much easier. Follow all of them. As Toby said earlier, rising tide raises all ships. Okay, tell them who sent you, the humble guys from the West Tigers podcast. That's not us. We're Tiger Town. That's who sent you. Humble blokes from the Tiger Town podcast. Mate, an hour and eight, sorry. We are really losing it. See if I can get through this without making a fool of myself.
Well, before you wrap up too, I've just changed the rules a little bit in terms of that giveaway. Just
Well,
a touch.
just wait. I'll throw to you before the end of the show.
Okay.
Get on over. Don't forget the West Tigers Forum, West Tigers Podcast Forum. Follow the Ambush on Facebook. All of those good platforms. Lots of good chat going on over there. Everything juniors. There's quality everywhere across the interwebs at the moment around Tigers content. Get on board. It's a good time to be absorbing everything you can. Find out the latest and beat us to it. If you have a hot tip, send it through. Thanks, as always, to our sponsor, Best on Ground Digital. As I said earlier, wouldn't be able to do amazing, cool little giveaways like this, which have got us surprised without their support. So thanks to Best on Ground Digital, the digital marketing agency that looks after the little guy. They will not steer you wrong. bestongrounddigital.com. Now, mate, competition. One last time, what were you going to say?
Oh, so you can still, a like is still a vote, but it's only worth one vote. If you share, it's worth 2 votes. In terms of if you did a like and a share, that's 3 total. And then if you comment and you tag a mate, that's worth 3. So you have a total of earning 6 votes, but the like is only worth 1. Everything else is worth 2 or 3.
Mate, you're confusing the poor people. Folks, give it a like, a share, a tag.
Nah, they understand it.
Get the votes up. Good luck to everyone. I hope somebody who's an XL wins it, but I'm sure we will. Mate, that's all we've got to say. Football season's back. Would have loved to start with a win. Unfortunately, there was that dour loss there against Newcastle, but saddling up for Sunday afternoon this week.
Absolutely. I wasn't as pissed off from that loss because I felt like there was still some things to like about it. So
there was.
Hopefully we just keep building.
We're playing the long game. Fuck off, we're building.
Fuck off.
On that note, nothing more to say other than go the mighty West Tigers.
Up the Tigers.